What's up, YouTube? If you're a musician, I'm going to help you figure something out. I've been doing music for 20 over 20 years, and I never caught a break in the music industry. The biggest thing that I ever did was I co-wrote a jingle that was on television for 4 years. My name's Jason. I'm shooting this video so I can set you free from something, so I can help set you free from something. So if you're a musician and you are pursuing what you call a career in music, I just want to set you free. Okay? So you don't need a record deal. You could get a record deal, but record deals are hard to come by. So number one, you don't need a record deal. You used to need a record deal. When I was in my 20s trying to doing music, all I was trying to do was get a record deal, because at the time there wasn't any social media really, and so the only way to build a fan base is to play shows, sling your CDs everywhere, try to get a record deal. And so there's that. Seems like that was the only way. And so, but now on social media, like with YouTube, like I'm posted on YouTube. Granted, I only have 700 followers. I hate that word. 700 subscribers, people who are subscribing to my channel. Now, I don't have millions and millions of plays, but I can see the writing on the wall with what I'm doing. And so I want to talk just a little bit more about the record deal thing. And so, do you know that like only 2% or less people, if you're trying to make it big, what they say, make it big in the music industry, only 2%. Let 2% or less people actually make it big. If you think about it from a business perspective, there are a limited amount of spaces as well. And so there's a limited amount of spaces, but there's an abundance of people. And so what that does is that drives competition up. When there's a surplus, prices are low. When there's a drought, prices are high. So always in the music world, because there's just every person out there at some point in time thinks they want to be famous doing music or something, it seems. So there's always this new wave after new wave after new wave of people that are trying to become famous in the music industry. So there's that. There's a lot of competition, and it's 2% or less. I think it's less. I think it's more like 1%. 1% likelihood that you will become big, what they call big. You'll become a big star. And so I don't think that is the right thing to aspire to. I think the right thing to aspire to, the right thing for you, for most people, if it's 2% or less, it's more like the right thing for you, for most people. The right thing for most people is just have fun making music and put it out there, though. You got to actually put it out there. I recommend YouTube Shorts, because YouTube Shorts, what happens is it's going to get served up to people, and then if it does well, it's just going to go poof. So YouTube sends out a YouTube Short to people that that the algorithm kind of thinks might like this. And then if people actually click like and people actually watch it, they say, oh, okay, that's the type of person that likes this. So your YouTube channel is constantly trying to figure out who is into what you do. And so you go through, when you first start posting, you go through this like break-in phase to where YouTube's trying to figure out who you are and trying to figure out how to match who you are up with who is into what you do. Now you can go about that two ways if you're posting, if you're making music. One way to go about it is you could try to be something for someone, or you can just be yourself. That is such a big deal. I'll say it again. You can try to be something for someone, or you can just be yourself and do what you're into. Where we're at right now, what I believe where we're at is we are in a point right now to where there's so much content on the internet that now the challenge with the social media platforms is, how do we find how do we, there's so much content. So if you're scrolling through YouTube, right? YouTube is trying to figure out, how do I give you what you actually want? Because there's no shortage of content. That's the challenge. So where I'm going with this is that whatever you do, there's somebody out there that's into what you do. Now, it may be really niche, it may be a really small thing, there may not be a ton of people, but there's somebody out there that's into what you do. So with that known, now that we know that, you don't really need to try to be something for someone. Because whoever you are is who you are. And eventually, if you're trying to be something for someone, whoever you are, that's going to burn out. You're going to burn out on trying to put on a show, put on a character. I don't believe that trying to be something for someone is sustainable. It's not a sustainable practice. And so, because it's not authentic, eventually you're going to want to be yourself. You know, it's the classic story of the music story where the person gets a record deal and then they create an image for that person and they create a persona and then they tell them what songs they're going to sing, and then it all works, right? It works. But then at some point in time, that musician is like, I want to be the real me. I want to write my own songs, stuff like that. Like, I'm singing about these things that it isn't even me, you know? And so, well, you don't have to do that. Because if you think through it critically, if you're setting out right now to try to make it, what does make it even mean? The definition of everything in the music world has completely changed. What it means to make it now, in my opinion, what it means to make it is to, when you post something on the internet, people actually care. Some people actually care. So there's that, you know. So make it doesn't mean get a record deal. That's not what making it means. Making it means when you post something, it doesn't get 0 views. It gets however many views. And then the question is, how many views in your own mind, because if you're a musician and you're posting, you're creating all of these benchmarks for your own self. You may not even realize it. So is 500 views on a YouTube short, is that your definition of making it? Or is 1 million views on a YouTube short, is that your definition of making it? It's up to you. Like, what's your definition? So if you're just being your authentic self, you don't have to try to be something, or you don't have to try to create a YouTube short or sing a song that you think people are going to like. If you just sing what you like and put it out there, then the algorithm is going to match you with people who like what you like. And then you can just be your authentic self. And let's talk about drawing people to you, right? So that's really what this is. Like, when you're posting music, really, by what developing a fan base actually is, a fan base. It's really more like building a group of people centered around a particular base of interests, and the persona of the person, the singer, is kind of like the spokesman for that idea or that interest, or that's what it's about. So like, let's say you dress up as Mickey Mouse and you sing songs about Disneyland. Well, the people who are into Disneyland and into Mickey Mouse and into what Mickey Mouse sings about Disneyland, those people are going to be into it. So when you go to play it live, when you do a show, people who are into those concepts you're going to have a group of people who are into that concept, into that right there. And so there's probably been a lot of times where a singer doesn't realize that, like, what you're singing about, you're going to attract people who are into what you're singing about. But if you're not singing about what you're actually interested in, then let's say you build a fan base and you're actually singing about things that you think you should sing about, but you're not even really interested in those things. And then you go to play live and you look out into the crowd and you go, these aren't my people. These are not my people. You know? In my case, it would be like, I would say, like, so I'm a Christian. And so let's say if you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, let's say hypothetically, I do hundreds of songs about drinking. I'm a Christian, but I do hundreds of songs about drinking, and I use a lot of profanity in the music. Okay, but let's say I successfully put out those songs and successfully build, like, let's say 100,000 fan subscribers, and then I do a show, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, we can't wait till you do a show." And then I go to play, and then I'm singing those songs, and I'm looking out at the crowd, and everybody's getting wasted, and everybody's using profanity, and I'm like, dude, I'm a Christian. This isn't even what I'm into. You see the dead end road of singing songs about things that you're not even really into, trying to be something for someone instead of just being your authentic self. So there's that. So to recap, I just want to set you free. Okay, you don't need to really, all you got to do is play guitar and sing in your bedroom. You don't even really have to go out and do all the things that people think they need. You need to go do some shows. No, man. Because here's the thing. If you have like 10 subscribers and you go out and do a show, no one's going to show up. Nobody's even going to show. And so the bedroom phase is getting to the point where you're just singing in your bedroom and recording. That's the most low-key chill, because what you're doing is you're posting content and you're just drawing people to you who are into what you're into, and it's just about the music, and so the game has changed so much, and so I've just realized that. So what I'm doing is I'm posting music that I like. I'm really having a ton of fun playing guitar and learning how to play different strumming patterns, and it's a lot of fun. I'm learning and practicing playing licks and in between chords. So you play a chord, you play a couple strums on the chord, and you play a lick in between to make it sound more interesting, and you're singing. And yeah, right now I'm having fun playing open mics because there's other musicians there. But see, I'm doing these things because I like them, because they're fun. I'm not doing these things really to get fans, though. People actually coming along for the journey is it's definitely validation. But for me, I think just establishing, like, becoming a better guitar player. Like, guitar is a lot of fun. Guitar is very difficult, and there's a lot of room to grow, and it's a lot of fun. And singing and playing some like cover songs. The thing about that is that I've been learning, because I've always been resistant to doing that, but you learn when you play cover songs. You learn what different musical choices other artists make. And other artists sing differently than maybe you sing normally. So just figuring out how they sing and stuff like that, and then making it your own is fun. It's a hobby. And so the question is, well, let me just tie it up with one more thing, and then I'll close the video. So a mistake that I made in my 20s when I was pursuing a career in music is I always had like a part-time job, but I lived what you would call like a bohemian lifestyle in my 20s. And so what I basically said, I don't care about money. I just didn't. I don't care about money. I don't want to have a full-time job, because my justification for not having a full-time job is because I was doing what I believe to be working full-time at music. And for me, what that was putting together press kits and reaching out to record labels full-time and developing what I thought was, at the time, a fan base on MySpace, using a bot that I could send out mass messages. And so, but I also was, in my 20s, I was also willing to fabricate numbers too. So in my mind, if my playlist said 1 million plays, it didn't matter if there were actually a million, if there were people behind that, as long as it looked like I got 1 million plays. And that's how I thought in my 20s. But the problem with that is there needs to be real people behind these plays, because real people represents that people are actually into you, into what you're doing. That's critical. People need to be into what you're doing if you want them to be. If you're just on YouTube and it's whatever, everybody's out there for different reasons. But a mistake that I think I made for sure was I did not get a full-time job. Money. You need money. Music is very difficult to make money at. It's just always been that way. And so even like, take people like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, artists, I think, during the Renaissance period, they had people that basically commissioned them to create. And so if you're just creating because you dig creating and it feels good and you love creating, you're just creating and there's no money, and it's just, call it a hobby. At least call it what it is. It's a hobby. If you're getting paid for it, then you're rendering a service. So Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci and other major artists during that time, if no one paid them, they were broke and they were hungry. And so if you're playing music, just understand that if you don't get a job, it's more likely that you're going to be broke and you're going to be hungry. So, you got to get a job, and you can learn songs and put songs up on YouTube while you have a full-time job. If it's really fun for you, and then you can save some money and you can, have food on your table. And then, when you have a little money in your pocket, it makes life a heck of a lot easier. So what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story that I'm telling you is that if you're young and you're setting out there and you're pursuing a career in music, take it from me, always make sure that you have a job and you have a paycheck. Even if it's got nothing to do with music. Number two, you don't really have, my opinion, you do not have to move this day and age. It used to be you had to move to Nashville, LA, or New York City. You don't have to do that. I really don't. Because if you just put out music and you put out what you like and you're doing what you genuinely like and you just put it out there, first of all, it's a grind. I'm looking at the data. So I've got like 700 some odd followers right now, subscribers on YouTube, okay? The amount of YouTube Shorts is the way to reach people. The amount of shorts that you have to put out to get 700, like 300 YouTube Shorts, or maybe even 500, okay? 500 YouTube Shorts to get 700 subscribers is what it's taken me. 500. And that's why I typically always burn out, because I'm like, dude, you got to figure out a strategy in order to get this content going. What I do is I go live, and I have a decent microphone. It's called the Shure MV88, and I plug it into my phone. I go live on YouTube, and I have these songs that I'm working on, and I sing them, and then I download that from YouTube, and I put it into Final Cut Pro, and I chop them into YouTube Shorts, and then I schedule them out, or I just upload them. I just drag the whole thing onto YouTube, and it goes into your draft folder. So if you have like 20 videos, you just drag it into your draft. You drag it into YouTube, upload from your desktop, and then it just goes into a draft folder. So you don't have to upload them one at a time. You can just drag them all over, and which is amazing. And then after they're all in your YouTube, you can go in on your phone, and you can choose when to upload. You can choose when to publish them, make them live, and you can change the title and stuff. You can also schedule them out. So if let's say you have 20 and you want to post 2 a day, then you can schedule them out 10 days in a row. And so now you've just scheduled them out, and for 10 days you're not going on each time posting. It's not sustainable to post one short at a time simply because of the amount of shorts that you have to post. And if you post one short, maybe you'll get 1 subscriber. Maybe not. If you post 5, maybe you'll get 2 subscribers. Stuff like that. And then, so, just know that if you want to attract actual people who are interested in what you're actually doing, you've got to be authentic. There's somebody out there who likes what you do, who's into what you're into. So just be yourself, the true version of yourself, and you need actual people behind it. And it's like the amount of energy and time it takes to get actual people to find you, it takes, like, honestly, years. So are you going to do it for years and be broke the entire time and just sit there in dreamland? Or are you going to go get a job and do it all day Saturday, schedule out for the whole week, and then the next week you're working on songs, and then you do it all, and you just do it like that, So that's my advice. We live in a time where you don't need a record deal. A record deal is a little bit of a fast track, but only less than 2% of people who try to make music are actually successful at it. So where's everybody else? Everybody else is working because you need food, shelter, and water. Everybody else is playing open mics or playing in their living room or picking up the guitar every once in a while and then burning out on it and then stopping, or you know what I mean? So that's my advice for you. Just be yourself and just know that if you have actual people behind you, that's real power. That's when people come and knocking. That's when magazines want to know who you are. So then they publish about you and then more people find you because of the magazine. Nobody wants to know what you're up to unless you're actually doing something. And you gotta have the subscriber count in order to have people, in order to move people around. What I mean by move people is like then you put out a post that says you have a show, and then people actually show up at your show. So yeah, just have fun with it, man. Always have a job, and don't lose yourself. And you don't need to try to be something that you're not. You don't need to try to be what you think other people want you to be. Sometimes when you post, you're gonna look ugly. Sometimes you're gonna look fat. Sometimes you're gonna look old. People are gonna say mean things about you. And just be yourself and just be happy with who you are. So that's my advice. And stay at it. Stay after it. And if you need to take a little break, take a break. Who cares? All right, we'll see you.